Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Reddit. What's your FHOA story? I built my house 3 years ago and obviously used whatever builders the developer sent there. I didn't really have a choice. They painted my mailbox some shade of green. Last year, I got a notice saying my shade of green was wrong and to fix it by going to Home Depot and asking for the color green specifically for my neighborhood. I responded that I checked the Blessed Covenants and the mailbox color section did not clearly state the necessary color or color values and its language was ambiguous and open to interpretation by any reasonable person. I also pointed out there were at least a dozen other mailboxes that did not meet the same vague guidelines, and there were multiple other things that needed attention that were far more detrimental to the neighborhood aesthetic than my mailbox post shade of green. I never heard anything back about it. Yes, I could have easily painted the mailbox post, but that wasn't the point. This was a petty thing for some reason, and this is by no means an expensive neighborhood. California was undergoing water restrictions, some of which included not being able to water your lawn. That's fine with my mom, so we stopped watering our lawn. HOA, however, sends us $500 fine every day when our lawn starts to yellow. We go to court and the court sides with us, basically saying that we can't be fined for complying with state law about mandatory water use restrictions. Our nosy neighbor who did not like that ending, not one bit. So she files a barrage of noise complaints. Cops even stake out the neighborhood for a night to see if they were real. She makes another noise complaint. Cops on duty realize that the lady is making BS complaints. She is given a talking to and told that if she files another false complaint, she will be charged with wasting police resources and filing false complaints. HOAs give people power trips. HOA president, HOA treasurer, F off, mind your own business. Should be a rotating presidency, otherwise you just get people who want to micromanage other people's lives over what shade of green is acceptable for your grass to be. Bought our home in an HOA neighborhood, but instructed my attorneys and real estate agents to conveniently ignore and forget to sign any HOA-related documents. Moved in and promptly forgot to pay any dues. Eventually, they started sending threatening letters, which I completely ignored. One day, some pinhead actually came by my place to ask why I wasn't more involved with the HOA and why I was so hard to reach. I responded that as far as I was concerned, I was not a member of any such association. When he tried to contradict me, I invited him to prove it. It's been years. I never heard from them again. FHOAs. My sister-in-law bought a house in a brand new development. The land was an old farm. The farmer still lived in his old farmhouse on the edge of the development, so he decided to reside his house. The HOA found out and sent him their swatches of approved colors. He was like, I don't give no S's, I ain't a part of no development. So he went to a couple of home improvement stores and got all their leftovers. I figure this is what he did because that house was a crazy patchwork pastiche of every god-awful color known to man. What a glorious, beautiful eyesore. God bless America and freedom! Houses in the States and I'm not American. Think I've told this one before, but it's just too good. One year, HOA decided to force everyone to put these huge candy canes made of PVC pipe in their yards lining the street for Christmas. Some of the Jewish neighbors weren't cool with that and complained. How did the HOA respond? Replacing their red candy canes with blue ones. Apparently metal trash cans are against the rules. Got sent a fine for not using a plastic one. Guy who ran the HOA had a metal trash can. Took him up with it, and eventually found out he had been paying all his fines direct to the HOA president, which was himself. Not mine personally, never lived in an HOA, but they built an HOA development when I was a teenager a few miles closer to town from where we lived. There was a house of the main road right near their entrance that was pretty run down, but it there years before the development and hence wasn't part of the land they bought. They told the owner to fix it up, and he rightfully told them to F off. They asked him again and offered to pay part of it. Again, he told them to F off. Finally, they offered to pay to fix up all of it. He agreed. This whole thing went on for over a year, and there were people being in town that he was somehow the a-hole when he living there before they did anything with the land. To the rest of us, he was a bit of a legend. I actually became a board member in my HOA, learned the rules, and got away with a whole lot of S. If you really hate your HOA, get involved with it. Volunteer. People who are involved get cut all kinds of slack. I used to have an estate liquidation business, and many HOAs wouldn't allow estate sales in their gated communities or would require an appointment for every buyer. So, if it was a no estate sales allowed community, we would throw a party and tell all of our customers to tell the guard they were there for the party, and we provided email invitations. If it was allowed by appointment only, I would put a staff member at the gate, and they would record the customers' names as they pulled up. They never said how many people or appointments we were limited to. I worked hard for my clients, and I'd be D'd if they were going to prevent these homeowners that typically lived in these communities for 20 plus years and paid their dues to not be able to sell their S in order to sustain a decent quality of life. Ours is generally reasonable, actually, but there's a parking issue. Mother-in-law lives with us and has a car. Wife and I each have a car too. Due to everyone having to go places at different times, we could park 2 cars in the driveway, 1 car along the street opposite the house. Then they said no cars parked on the street, but you can park it on the driveway sideways, blocking both cars. Okay, fine. So we did, but it meant constant car juggling. Then they said the 3rd car was not allowed at all except in a garage. So we had to clear out the garage and put 1 car in there and continue the irritating car juggling made worse because our automatic garage door broke and we don't have the money to fix it. Anyway, the mother-in-law is too disabled to drive now, so the car juggling is over. Our HOA is a little disassembled due to the neighborhood still being mostly in development. The people running the HOA are mainly a bunch of self-important peas with too much time on their hands. My least favorite of the bunch are the couple put in charge of pool duties. It started when a group of teenagers, presumably from the neighborhood across the road, left pizza boxes over by the pool. Despite people having actually seen these teenagers in the pool the evening before, the pool couple decided that it was the work of a group of middle school boys, specifically my brother and his friends. Fast forward a month or so later, this as heard from my brother's friend's sister, when that water bottle flip fad was starting to hit the school, my brother and his friends were testing how high they could toss the bottle when it landed on the roof. His friend's house is very close by, so they gathered a ladder and went to remove the bottle from the roof, and they were in the act of retrieving said bottle when a man in a gray van swerved around the corner. The driver, the president of the pool committee, which mind you consists of him and his wife, cursed at the boys, screamed, threatened to call the cops, and took videos of them. At this point, the friend's sister called my parents about it as she was somewhat frightened. One called to the police later, and the president of the pool committee was made to delete the videos and given a warning. Later, he and his wife tried to ban people from throwing doggy bags in the trash cans next to the pool, which are the only trash cans available for one to toss said doggy bags outside of one's own trash can and on the main stretch of road. They didn't like how it smelled after a month of stewing in the sun, but if they emptied the cans every week like they're supposed to, that problem wouldn't exist. I chose to pretend that that rule doesn't exist. Lovely family, that president of the pool committees. Every now and then I see one of his sons playing in the yard while I walk my dog. They're very loud and have yelled at a girl for wanting to play with them because girls can't use Nerf guns, yelled at a different girl to go back to the kitchen, and that they're going to shoot all them eyes. It's like I've stepped back into the 50s, and that image isn't helped by their literal white picket fence. Getting told I couldn't park my truck in my driveway. Apparently, driving a restored classic truck is against some people's made-up rules. You can suck a bag of D's, was the response. All of a sudden, it's not my driveway, it's my yard. A giant concrete driveway isn't my yard, effers. Well, it's just parked there and never get driven. I'd drive it every day. They tried a few more things, always BS, and got told off. Didn't bother us anymore. Funny part is, none of them followed their own rules and hadn't in a decade. The HOAS was nullified by their blatant disregard for the rules long ago. Funny part is, even though we lived in the woods, most everyone's house/yard was kept in good shape, but the HOA folks. The one time we lived somewhere with an HOA, you weren't allowed to have certain plants in your garden. My friend planted some lovely hydrangeas, and as soon as they bloomed, they were torn up. I'd like you to meet the greenbrier. They're basically impossible to get rid of. Trust me, I had to pull those bees up for 18 months, and they choke out all other plants around them. I went around at 2 a.m. and threw handfuls of their seeds around the HOA board members' yards. They sprouted rapidly. Last I checked, they're still trying to get rid of them. Poison doesn't work, and neither does cutting them down. You gotta dig up their tubers or burn them. So the HOA in my parents' neighborhood sent my mother a letter to take down her 2 pink plastic flamingos because they clashed with the architectural aesthetic of the neighborhood. Upper middle class sort of place, my mother formally complied but made game flouting the rules after that. There were no restrictions in the bylaws against any sort of temporary seasonal decorations. So the flamingos come out for every holiday imaginable, redressed for the season. Flamingo witches and mummies for Halloween, pulling Saints sleigh for Christmas, football players for the all-important Clemson-Carolina rivalry game. It has gotten to the point where her flamingo dioramas are neighborhood institution with people looking forward them. On a related note, costumes meant for small dogs fit plastic pink flamingos pretty well. My sister and ex-brother-in-law, hereafter referred to as Jackie von Gobblesee III, bought a home in an HOA. Jackie von Gobblesee III decided to build a basketball hoop in his driveway for my young nephew and niece. Rather than buy one of those cheap basketball hoops, Jackie von Gobblesee III dug a hole in the ground, sunk in a proper steel pole with a basketball hoop on top, and poured concrete into the hole to anchor the whole thing. His neighbor, who happened to be the HOA president, watched the whole thing from his front porch. 3 days later, my sister and Jackie von Gobblesee III receive a letter in the mail informing them that basketball was banned by the HOA as the sound of a dribbling ball was considered a nuisance. They had 48 hours to remove it. His neighbor could have informed him of this rule as soon as he saw Jackie von Gobblesee III digging the hole, but decided to wait until it was done. F HOAs. Also, F Jackie von Gobblesee III. I lived in a building that was a failed condo building, so it was maybe 25% owners, the rest renters. The HOA was incompetent. The following events happened. One of the owners decided he could leave his gross, dirty, used mattress in my parking space. I tossed it outside where it swelled up. To thank me, he annexed the wash your car space and stored his gross mattresses there. The building owner decided who could show people's apartments whenever he wanted to prospective buyers. If they didn't give me adequate notice, well, no showing for you. The owner never got unique locks for each unit, so my key could open any non-owner key. The corrupt super knew when people were coming and going and let his friends stay in people's apartments. They cut power to the entire building. After someone threatened the power guy, we got it restored to our individual units. The hallways were dark and the elevator no longer worked, which was great for the disabled people who lived in our building. The owner was taking the rent money/assessments and keeping it. We owed the power company $60,000. So thank a good HOA, not an incompetent one. After these revelations, I said F you, bought a place, and broke my lease 3 months early. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.